The Christmas lights flickered over the dining table like nothing was wrong. Red, green, gold. My son, Elijah, 5 years old, clutched his handmade card in his tiny hands, a crayon drawing of Grandma, Grandpa, me, with crooked smiles and glitter stuck to the paper. He had been practicing his little speech for 3 days. I want to say Merry Chris. Wait your turn, my mom snapped, waving her wine glass. This is family talk now. I blinked. We were already seated. What turn? But I said nothing. Across the table, my sister Marlene wore a blood-red silk dress like she was attending an awards show. Her smile was all teeth. She raised her glass toward my parents and said, "To people who know how to make sacrifices. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video?" They clinked their glasses. I looked at the food. Elijah had been served one dry dinner roll and a scoop of plain green beans, no butter, no salt. Meanwhile, Marlene had lamb chops, mashed potatoes, 3 types of pie already cut for her. I tried to move Elijah's plate closer to mine to share what little I had. My mother's eyes flashed. "Don't start with your charity nonsense," she hissed, loud enough for everyone. "He already ate from our pantry this week." "I buy my own groceries," I said quietly. "Sure," Marlene smirked. "With what money? Your pity checks?" I opened my mouth, then shut it. It wasn't worth it. Not here. Not with Elijah watching. My father leaned back in his chair like a king about to declare war. "Marlene just got her second promotion. 2 cars now. And you still live in our basement apartment, playing babysitter to a mistake." Elijah flinched. I pulled him into my lap. "I'm sorry. What did you just call him?" I whispered. "A mistake," my mom said, chewing. "You never should have kept him. We told you to get rid of it back then." "Don't say that in front of him." I choked. Elijah's little fingers were digging into my sweater, his eyes darting between the faces like he was watching a storm coming. "Why not?" Marlene said. "He should hear it now so he doesn't get confused later when nobody shows up to his school recitals." "Marlene," I said, trembling, "he's your nephew." "He's nothing, just like his mom." That's when I stood. I grabbed Elijah's hand, trembling with shame and rage, and tried to walk toward the coat rack. But then came the final blow. A plastic trash bag, dropped in front of the door. "Take your Leech's belongings and go," my mom said, sipping her wine like it was the most casual thing in the world. "We need the basement for storage." Marlene burst out laughing. "Merry Christmas, sis. You didn't think you were family, did you?" I stared at the bag. Inside was Elijah's stuffed animal, a toothbrush, and one of my bras. Nothing else. My name was not on any of the Christmas presents. My father hadn't looked me in the eye all evening. My mother had used Elijah's milk money to buy Marlene a designer purse. I knew that now. My son was holding back tears. "Do we have to go?" he asked, voice wobbling. I knelt down and looked him in the eyes. "Not forever." I picked up the trash bag. My father scoffed. "Finally acting like the maid you were meant to be." I paused, turned around, and smiled. Something broke in me then, not sadness, not fear, but something colder, quieter. A voice that said, "This will never happen again." "Thanks for the lesson," I said, meeting my mother's eyes. "You gave me everything I need." "You mean a trash bag?" Marlene laughed. "No," I said, stepping outside into the snow. "A reason." I walked out without another word. I didn't cry. Not then. Elijah tucked his face into my coat, and I could feel his heartbeat. I didn't tell him, but I already knew. That was the last Christmas they'd ever control. That was the moment I chose revenge. Not petty. Not soft. Not loud. But something that would burn so slowly they'd never stop feeling it. And this time, I wouldn't be the one begging for a seat. I'd be the one deciding who got to eat at the table. The cold bit into my skin as we walked through the snow, Elijah's shoes soaked through in minutes. The bus stop was empty, no shelters open, and my last paycheck had gone to rent for a room they just gave away without a word. I called my coworker, Jenna, who was off for the holidays. She didn't ask questions, just whispered, "Come over. Now." She cleared a space in her tiny living room, laid out an old comforter, and said, "It's not much, but he'll be warm." I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling while Elijah snored next to me, his little arm flopped across my ribs. My body shook not from cold, from remembering every single humiliation they'd ever dressed up as parenting. When I was 13 and asked for deodorant, my mother said, "You don't need any. You're not close enough to people to offend anyone." When I turned 18 and Marlene got a car, I got a mop bucket. When Elijah was born and I begged them to come to the hospital, they went to a winery instead. But Christmas was the final crack. The next morning, I left Elijah with Jenna and went out to walk. My legs took me to the edge of the city where construction signs littered the blocks and glass towers were halfway up. That's when I saw it, the plot, the one I'd cleaned houses next to for months. Coming soon, Wexford Living Luxury Apartments. I stared at the banner until my eyes blurred. And then something clicked. Wexford Living was owned by an old couple, the Kleins, whom I had cleaned for briefly 2 years back. Rich, eccentric, hated bootlickers, loved grit. Mr. Klein once said to me as I scrubbed their patio, "If you ever want a real job, show me what you can build from nothing." I had nothing now. So I found his number. I walked into the Wexford development office, soaked shoes, wild hair, and Elijah's crayon card still folded in my pocket, and said, "Give me a mop, a week, and one apartment in the unit nobody wants. I'll flip it without $1. They laughed. Until I showed them before and after photos of every house I'd cleaned, fixed, painted. One woman leaned over and whispered, "You did all this alone?" I said, "While working 3 jobs and raising a kid." I walked out with a 6-week trial and the key to an abandoned unit on the 3rd floor. No elevator, no light fixtures, peeling paint and wires poking out of the ceiling like vines. I called Jenna. "I need you to babysit every night. I'll pay you once this works." She said, "Just make it count." For 45 days straight, I worked 3 jobs, raised Elijah, and rebuilt that apartment from the bones up. I hand-sanded every surface, found cabinets from Craigslist, rescued tiles from demolition piles, sewed curtains myself. I even framed Elijah's crayon card and hung it in the kitchen as art. The investors came. They walked through silently, said nothing. I went home with blistered hands. 3 days later, I got a call. "Miss Carter," the voice said, "that unit just became the face of the building. The photos are on every flyer. You've got your job full-time. Title, head property designer." I sank to the floor. But I wasn't done. Because I didn't just get the job. I got stock. And 6 months later, when Wexford bought 2 properties on my parents' street to develop, I saw the one name on the negotiate list. Carl and Margaret Carter. My parents. Still living in that house. The one I scrubbed floors in, the one they kicked me out of, the one they called a shrine to Marlene, her trophies, her graduation photo, her painting from 1st grade. Still up. And now? It was sitting on a development lot. And guess who handled interior asset evaluations? Me. I drove to their door in a company car, suit tailored to my arms, heels clicking on their porch. When my mom opened the door, she blinked. "Do we?" "I'm here for an inspection," I said, brushing past her like air. She sputtered, "You can't just—" "Actually," I said, "the offer already passed. I just need to evaluate what stays, and what becomes trash." Her face paled. "Like you did to me last Christmas." Marlene came downstairs halfway through the walkthrough, sipping her smoothie like she owned the world. She didn't even blink when she saw me. "Oh, wow, the Leech got a blazer," she smirked. "You doing door-to-door vacuum demos now?" I didn't flinch. I clicked my pen and said, "You've got 30 days to clear out anything you want to keep. After that, it's all considered waste by city code." My mom gasped, "Wait, what? This is our home." I turned. "No, this was your home. The moment you sold it, it became a unit in a development project. And guess what? I decide which rooms get stripped, including Marlene's shrine room." My dad finally spoke. "You ungrateful little, after all we did for you." I stared at him calmly. You handed me a trash bag on Christmas and told me I wasn't family. You made that decision." He lunged like he wanted to say more, but I stepped past him and walked into the garage, the one I had slept in for 2 months after Elijah was born, because they didn't want a baby crying in the hallway. I snapped pictures. "This will be the first room torn down." My mother screamed something incoherent behind me. Marlene crossed her arms, fuming. "This is still illegal somehow. You're a rat and rats don't win." I looked at her with an expression she'd never seen from me before. Not rage, not hurt. Control. I said, "You know what's ironic? Wexford is naming every floor after a woman who helped build it. Floor 3? That's mine. And right next to the elevator wall is a plaque. I put Elijah's card on it, the one he made the night you all kicked us out." Marlene scoffed. "Who's gonna care about a kid's doodle?" I smiled. Funny. The investor's wife cried when she saw it. She said, "This is the kind of building I want my kids to grow up in." That drawing got me promoted to lead 3 more properties, and I kept it there not as decoration, as a warning. I paused. "Because your names, all 3 of yours, are banned from ever leasing or buying on any Wexford property in the state." My mom's knees buckled. "You can't do that." "Actually," I replied, holding up a paper, "the board voted unanimously last week. The clause is written in. Official. You'll have to explain it every time a buyer does a background check on this address." Huh, Dad's jaw tightened. "This isn't a win. This is petty. You'll die alone." I nodded slowly. "Maybe, but I won't be ashamed while I'm dying." Then I handed them one last envelope, the kind they once handed me, full of rejection. Inside were photos. Me and Elijah standing in front of the completed floor I built, smiling, holding keys to our new place unit 301, the one no one believed I could finish. My mom dropped the envelope. I whispered, "You threw me out with garbage. I built something from it." As I walked out, I didn't look back. Outside, Elijah was waiting in the car with Jenna. He waved. I opened the door and he asked, "Did they say sorry?" I buckled him in, kissed his forehead, and said no, but they said everything I needed to hear in silence. As we pulled away, the demolition truck arrived behind us. And I didn't smile. I just exhaled. Finally, empty of them. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this